Let's rock, baby.
Did you know that Devil May Cry is actually a reskin of Doki Doki Panic? Everyone knows this story by now. Resident Evil 4 went through a bit of a troubled development with multiple ideas scrapped for what the game was going to become. This specific iteration would focus on a new character, Tony Redgrave, who was superhuman as a result of biotech experiments. To make the character stand out more on screen, the game would drop the pre-rendered backgrounds and go for a more gothic aesthetic, making it stand out from the early Resident Evil titles. But during development, producer Shinji Mikami thought that the more stylish focus strayed too far from the survival horror roots of the series and recommended that focus shift to make this game its own entity. So the director Hideki Kamiya created a whole new world full of demons instead of the sci-fi monsters that we see in Resident Evil, and would also change Tony's name to Dante as a reference to the Divine Comedy. Kamiya wanted Dante to be a character that was appealing in a unique way. He was stylish, a guy you'd want to hang out with, who isn't that much of a show-off, and instead endears people through jokes. And with the new name and characteristics, the world would be introduced to Dante and the new title, Devil May Cry. Team Little Devils would be inspired by games like Strider to give the game over-the-top action, as well as a glitching Onimusha that let you juggle enemies with your sword. This game is light on story, even more so than Resident Evil games. It's straightforward. Dante is the son of the legendary demon Sparda, who protected humanity from the demon king Mundus 2,000 years ago. Mundus would be responsible for the deaths of Dante's mother Eva and twin brother Virgil sometime after Sparda's death. So Dante became a demon hunter with the intention of killing any demons that come his way until he eventually reaches the top and hits the jackpot. And that day comes when this woman, Trish, ambushes him to see if he's really the son of Sparda, and then informs him of Mundus' attempt to return to the human world, punctuated by the reveal that she looks identical to Dante's mother. From this point on, the story gets much quieter, and is something you won't be able to fully appreciate on your first playthrough. Most cutscenes exist to introduce enemies or boss fights, yet so many of them give you such a good grasp on Dante. It's such a contrast to the goofball we've come to know, yet perfectly in line with this point in his life. He's cocky, but not because he's showing off, but rather through his lack of reaction to the insane threats he's facing. He comes off as a seasoned hunter. Even the closest minions of Mundus aren't able to face him. He talks to them without an ounce of fear, like to him this is just another job. His every mood exudes confidence, from the way he rises off of Alistair to how he casually turns his back on his enemies. Yet his disregard for these threats isn't out of disrespect. For a man who's dedicated his life to killing demons, he still gives them grace. When Griffin is fatally wounded, Dante refuses to continue the fight, and when Mundus kills him for failing, Dante is disgusted. Nello Angelo shares no words with Dante, yet he can read him as someone he would get along with as a fighter if he wasn't a servant of Mundus. And even after Trish is revealed to have been created by Mundus, he still can't bring himself to let her die. With just a handful of important scenes, he's such a well-defined character. The way he's compared and contrasted with Sparda, they put his image over Dante multiple times, yet they always break it with the reminder that Dante is his own person, and that his powers have the potential to even surpass those of his father. While he's vulnerable with Trish because she looks like Eva, she isn't able to regain his trust easily. His mercy is conditional, that he doesn't see her as a threat. And it takes her showing him that maybe in some way his mother's fire did find its way to her for him to acknowledge her as more than just another demon. This game knows when to boast its confidence and when to let a scene sit. When it's revealed that the Dark Knight you've been fighting throughout every segment of the game is actually Dante's brother who he thought was dead, Dante doesn't need to say anything for you to know exactly what he's feeling. Without any words and minimal facial animations, you can feel his resolve strengthen as he takes the amulets and his father's sword to create the Devil Sword Sparda and wields this unorthodox beast like it's a natural extension of himself. And the twist itself hits you in the face hard because it should have been obvious. When he's introduced, Nello Angelo is the only boss who doesn't speak to Dante. He reveals himself as Dante's mirror image. His attacks are near identical to Dante's, he even taunts like Dante. And he's shown to be capable of defeating Dante, only stopped by the amulet, which isn't shown to be very important up until this moment. It's just sitting in your inventory. And yet you won't expect it until Angelo is defeated and his amulet drops to the floor. All of this is backed by an amazing soundtrack. The game bounces from energetic techno during battles, to a gothic chorus that feels like it's coming from the walls of this huge palace. Or a sweeping theme that raises the stakes of a battle. and the practiced confidence of Dante wielding his father's sword. The recurring theme of Eva accompanies Dante's complex relationship with Trish, culminating in a huge overbearing release of emotion as he mourns her sacrifice the same way he mourns his mother's. Then back to the calm melody once the fighting is over. The soundtrack lacks the bombastic, energetic themes of the later games, but the way it uses the song it has to give the important scenes such a strong presence makes me consider this the strongest soundtrack in the series. The atmosphere of this game is unmatched. The castle of Melee Island feels as alive as the demons that inhabit it. It's filled with an unspoken history that only makes you question if this island was always the door to the demon realm, or if there was a time before when people actually lived in these halls. When you return to the castle after exploring the courtyard and underground, the palace has changed, doors are gone, new gateways have opened. Everything feels like the walls between the worlds has gotten weaker and the path to the demon realm is open. The demon world itself feels like a living thing, but unlike the castle, it doesn't try to hide it. It latches onto you and steals your health, like a lot of it really fast. It attacks you if you stand still. It closes itself off to protect its master. But then when you finally reach Mundus, the room is such a juxtaposition. It looks angelic, like this is what lies beyond the gates of heaven. Even Mundus, who takes on the image of the statue that was in the main hall, looks more akin to an angel than a demon. But it's all a ruse. The battlefield changes and Mundus takes on a new form, though still one that looks like an angel. And it's not until he's defeated and tries a last-ditch attempt to take Dante with him as the island crumbles that we see what truly lies beneath the surface. The true grotesque form of Mundus, the tyrant who kills his own followers, and the coward who waited his greatest enemy out before attacking his defenseless family, barely being held in one piece. The entire encounter, despite the out-of-left-field gameplay change, does a great job at raising the stakes. From the moment you walk in, you see what Mundus is planning, and in a moment of weakness it actually works and incapacitates Dante. Then after Trish sacrifices herself, Mundus isn't forgotten about on the scene. He just fires again, but now we see Dante is able to deflect it with what I can only assume is an early form of Royal Guard. This fight is when we finally see Dante take the physical form of his father. His attacks are extremely powerful, especially leading into the second phase. While Sparta not having Devil Trigger when you get it hinders its usefulness, when you can finally use it during this last encounter and see what it can do, it makes it feel all the more powerful. It has insane range, it can shoot fireballs, and it makes short work of the Demon King. Then at the end when Mundus returns, you really feel its absence. There's not a lot going on in this last battle, but you can feel how draining it is for Dante alone. But then it all comes back at once when Trish returns and gives Dante the last boost he needs to seal Mundus away back where he belongs.
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot.
The way that Dante immediately understands Trish at the end of the game reinforces the theme of humanity. The only difference between humans and demons are the choices that they make. Nello Angelo chooses to fight you with honor. Dante chooses to spare his enemies when they can't fight and save them even when they've betrayed him. Sparta chose to fight for humanity against his own kind, and Trish chose to give up her life to save Dante. Humanity isn't just something that you are, but it's a characteristic that you have and can inspire within others, even other demons. This game isn't for everybody. The gameplay can be unforgiving, especially on your first playthrough. Sometimes enemies can hit you with an attack that they started during a cutscene. Bosses can drain your health and be hard to outpace, especially towards the end. There are a few gimmicks that are off-putting, and moving while dealing with the fixed cameras can be a little clunky at times. But in turn, it's a very rewarding game to get a handle on. If you're familiar with the newer games, the combat is much more grounded, and that can be jarring, but it gives the weapon such a satisfying weight to them. The shotgun can blast some enemies apart, the grenade gun has a ton of impact, Nightmare can clear rooms at the cost of Devil Trigger, meaning it's useless, and Ebony and Ivory are the best for building Devil Trigger on enemies that move around a lot. Every time I play through this game, I learn something new. I usually don't use Ifrit a lot because the moves cost a lot of orbs, but some of these can blast through enemies. I never knew you could get Phantom to jump on this glass line, make him fall through, completely skipping the fight, although I think beating him normally is probably faster because he has to jump on it like 5 times. There are entire encounters you can skip mostly to avoid refighting the bosses, and I still don't know what this thing is over here. When I first played this game, I figured that Air Raid would be a move that looks cool, but is kind of useless, like Round Trip. But once you've tried it, it can shred through enemies and even bosses. It's great for staying out of danger. This is easily the best ability in the game. The main thing I learned playing through this game again was the real purpose of the Sparta. It doesn't let you quick swap to Ifrit, and it doesn't have Devil Trigger, which means it's pretty hard to actually use, but it's very powerful and has all of the Alistair moves unlocked even if you haven't bought them. Exploration is rewarded greatly with secret missions and blue orb fragments. Often jumping around on things rewards you with red orbs. You can find devil and vital stars to use on the spot for health or DT, untouchables that make you invincible, and holy water to give you some free damage on an enemy, which really came in clutch for me during Nightmare 3. The game isn't perfect. Some of the cutscenes can be stilted with poor audio balancing. It can kick your ass in ways that don't feel fair. The final boss feels a bit lackluster gameplay wise compared to the highlights of the other bosses before Nightmare. But despite all of that, I've played this game countless times, and each time I walk away appreciating it more. Whether it's a new move I tried for the first time, a trick I learned during a boss fight, a greater appreciation for the atmosphere and music, or a deeper understanding of the story and characters, Devil May Cry is a lovable bastard of a game. It's such a far cry from what the series would become, and yet it's the foundation for it all. 25 years later, this game is still amazing.